What is up, everybody? It is Grand Prix GP02 here, coming to you once again from the north end of Houston, Texas. And this week I've been dealing with a devious little hamster with a true need for speed. It's the 2017 Kia Soul Turbo. Alright everyone, so let's get to it. And first off, to those of you out there who heard what I just said and are thinking, what the hell is up with the whole hamster reference? Well, for that side of things, here's a little bit of a heavier hint. Alright, so now that you've gotten to know the fun and furry little mascots that have made this car so popular with the media these days, let's talk about what we are looking at here today. And if it isn't apparent by the slightly bigger wheels and the bright red accents all over the underside of this vehicle here, then one may or may not be able to guess that you are looking at the most extreme version of the Kia Soul to ever come to market since the namesake was first introduced in North America back at the end of the last decade. Now, while many areas of the Soul Turbo may seem rather extreme to some people, one thing that's not so big about it is actually the price tag. The base price of a Soul Exclaim Turbo without any additional options like my tester here, just over $22,600, which actually makes it pretty good value when you think about it, especially when you consider that this vehicle actually packs over 200 horsepower under the hood. Now, being that the Soul Turbo is offered exclusively as the upper end Exclaim trim level, you are going to get quite a lot of features as standard equipment. So we start here at the front and we have these automatic halogen projector headlights. Again, those are standard, but if you want to upgrade them to the high intensity discharge units, you are going to have to pay a little bit extra. Now that then leads down to this sort of slightly updated front fascia here for the Turbo, finished with a nice bit of gloss black, this nice split piece here in the middle, these large halogen fog lamps. Again, those are standard on the Exclaim here, and then all finished off with things such as the bright red accents, and then of course Kia's signature tiger nose grille. Now, as if my tester's wild orange exterior color isn't bright enough to catch the eye, one of the things that certainly caught my eye is this Exclaim trim level standard 18-inch painted and machine-faced aluminum alloy wheels. Now, unfortunately, my particular tester has seen over 16,000 hard and abused miles in some cases, hence why you can see a little bit of curb rash here on this particular tester's set of wheels. But nevertheless, the design of these wheels is very eye-catching, and I think the silver and these dark accents really contrasts and complements the wild orange exterior color that I have here. You got four-wheel disc brakes all the way around, and I do believe you also have the incorporated independent rear suspension at the back, aiding in this car's sportier driving dynamics. Now, walking down here along the side of my test vehicle, again, a lot of it is pretty standard stuff that you'll find on an upper end Soul, with the exception of things like, again, this bright red accent that runs along the lower rocker panel. You have things such as your gloss black accented Soul badge here on the front fender, body colored exterior mirrors here on the Exclaim trim level, finished with a nice bit of gloss black that trails off up here, up the A-pillar. These also include the LED turn signals, as you can see here on the outside. My tester does not have the optional blind spot monitoring, hence why you do not see any kind of icon in there, but again, that is an available option if you so desire. Another available option that's not featured here on my test vehicle today is the panoramic sunroof. They are still available, but again, my test vehicle does not have that. I kind of wish I could have experienced that, but it is nice to know that it is an available option. Now, moving down here along the door, we also do have body colored exterior door handles, both the front door handles here featuring the proximity key keyless access buttons. Just hit the button to unlock and lock the vehicle. Now, one of the things that I found kind of strange about the Soul ever since it was first introduced at the end of the last decade or so is this weird shaped window line. It's very odd how the upper end of the roof structure actually gets thicker as you go here towards the back, and the windows actually seem to get a little bit thinner. But then again, that's always been part of its charm. This car is properly quirky in quite a lot of ways. Maybe that's why the Hamsters themselves are kind of odd in their own way. But as we come around here towards the back, we do have LED, I believe these are LED accented taillights, or at least the outer part is a nice little accent to there. Standard halogen turn signals and the like. You do have the gloss black accent piece that runs across at least the middle part of the tailgate, accented with things such as the backup camera. Now, some of the other more noteworthy features here on the rear, you also have the red badging, signifying that this is the turbo model. A little bit more gloss black down here across the lower part of the back bumper. This rather interesting silver painted rear diffuser with these nice little fins that stick out of the bottom. And then we have the exhaust. It's pretty much the same sound that you'll get out of the Hyundai Elantra Sports sedan, the Veloster Turbo, and even the new Kia Forte 5 SX Turbo. It's got a nice deep growl, and just, it really does wake up the Soul's kind of sportier personality when you rev it out. Now, finishing off everything here on the exterior portion, one of the questions that's kind of been on my mind off and on throughout my week of testing here is, can this car now officially be considered an enthusiast vehicle? Well, I guess that really depends on the buyer. Yes, it has over 200 horsepower under the hood, but then again, the Soul has always been that quirky, funky, and youthful vehicle that really was there to kind of set Kia apart, just like what their sibling company Hyundai has done with some of their models as well. But in my mind, I can definitely say that it can very well be an enthusiast vehicle. I mean, just look at the aftermarket scene with these things already. So yes, it can be an enthusiast vehicle if you want it to be. But what about the interior? Can the interior be just as wild as the exterior? Well, let's open the door and find out. Now, opening the door to the Soul Turbo and looking at its interior, I can honestly say that it's just like all of the other Souls that you may find on dealer lots and throughout rental car companies. Although you do have a few signature touches to define the Turbo amongst all of the others. Key features like the flat bottom design, 3-spoke leather trim steering wheel here in my tester. We'll talk more about that later. And also these slightly more aggressively bolstered seats, which my tester here is demonstrating the half cloth and half leather trim seats. If you want full leather seats, that is an upgrade that you can get, but of course, like all the others, at an additional cost. You do also have the orange color keyed piping here on the seats that follows through with the steering wheel and also there on the shifter as well. The driver's seat here is multi-way power adjustable. You do have power distance, power recline, and power lumbar support as well. So that's kind of nice that they haven't skimped out on at least some of the powered commodities. Now, as far as aesthetics are concerned, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but nor does it feel like a cheap rental car. You do have some harder feeling materials up here on the upper part of the door. You do have a leather or leatherette padded area here for the armrest. Same goes with the middle part of the door. It's nicely accented with this gloss black interior trim piece, which is nice. And then, of course, to finish it all off, you do have a little bottle holder there down there at the bottom of the door. As far as switchgear, it's pretty much your standard stuff. You have power mirrors, power door locks with the keyless access, as I showed you earlier, the window locks. Both the front windows are automatic in both directions, or at least automatic down. You also do have other power windows as well, and that's pretty much it. Now, sitting here behind the wheel of the Soul, one of the things I definitely have to give praise for is not only visibility, but also comfort for taller folks like myself. I have plenty of legroom down there. I have a boatload of headroom here. The headliner actually feels like it's been raised up here for the front occupants, and even a little bit there in the rear. But entry and exit, ingress and egress, whatever you want to say, it definitely does feel like a great car even for taller folks like myself at 6'1". As far as visibility is concerned, the windshield is absolutely huge. It's raked away at a pretty steep angle, so you do have plentiful amounts of light coming in through there. Out the front windows, things are still just as good. Out the back, again with that roof line, or at least with the window line slimming down, the visibility is okay, but it's not great. Same with that little 3/4 window back there. But looking out of the back, I have plentiful visibility going out the back as well, so no issues there either. Now, it is pretty typical here in Houston. It is a scorcher with a lot of humidity out there, so what do we need? We need some air conditioning. So, key in hand, this is just like any other keyless access system. It's Kia's more recent key fob. It feels pretty good in your hand. You got lock, unlock, release the trunk, and also the panic function, and a releasable key blade that is simply released by pushing this button and pulling the key out of the bottom. But it's like all the other smart keys out there. Just keep the key fob anywhere within the vehicle, then simply put your foot on the brake pedal, and the engine start button is now down here in the center console. I had a little bit of trouble with this one because I'm used to start buttons being up here, but nevertheless, just with your foot on the brake, hit the engine start button, and alrighty, so we got our air conditioning going at a reasonable pace, so let's talk about the Soul's interior. And it really doesn't matter which version of the Soul you get in, whether it's this turbo or a base or a plus or whatever. One of the things that I really like about the modern generation of the Kia Soul is everything is basic yet functional, but I don't mean basic exactly in a bad way. Everything is labeled very legibly, it's very easy to access, and even some of the controls here on the steering wheel, such as the ones for your drive mode select and the liquid crystal display up there between your tachometer and speedometer, everything is very easy to understand. But starting here directly in front of the driver, as I mentioned earlier, we have a 3-spoke, partially perforated, leather-trimmed, multi-function steering wheel. We do have grips up here at 10 and 2, nice and thick, and provides great resting spots, especially for your thumbs here in the little crook of the upper end of the steering wheel. You do have a little bit of gloss black, which is a very nice little accent, and of course it is adorned with all of your typical electronic conveniences. You do have your hands-free radio over here, cruise control over here on the far right. As I just mentioned, you have your drive mode select, which there are 3 modes for that. You have normal, which it's in now, you have eco, and you have sport. Pretty much stuff we are all accustomed to already. And then of course the controls for the liquid crystal display, which I'll get to here in a minute, and also hands-free Bluetooth with voice recognition. As far as the upper end display is concerned in the gauge cluster, it's actually relatively easy to understand. The page I'm on now is pretty much your standard one, average and instant MPG, but you have the little page on the button on the steering wheel that looks like the pages of a book, and you just simply push it. You can go through user settings, and then also using the arrow, you can actually scroll down things like your driver info, trip meter, your digital speedometer, and it just goes right back to your average and instant MPG. So it's very basic, but again, it tells you everything that you need to know that is relevant. Now, as far as the gauges themselves, I'm actually really liking them. I like the way they're laid out with the smaller tachometer and speedometer on either side, but also I'm really digging the font and the red needles as well, not to mention the electronic displays for your temperature and your fuel gauge as well. Now, moving over here to the left of the steering column, just super quick, you only have a couple of little buttons. If you have a more basic Soul like this, you have the instrumentation dimming and the traction control as well. The steering column is manual tilt and telescoping, so you just flick this little lever here, and that of course allows you access to all of those functions. But then moving over here to the center console, my tester here, again being more basic, does not have all of the cool stuff that you will find in the upper end Souls, even more normal ones, unlike the turbo version here. What is missing is the 8-inch touchscreen display. This is the smaller 7-inch unit. It does still contain Kia's UVO or Your Voice multimedia services, so you still can do that. Bluetooth media streaming, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay are also on there. And touch responsiveness and everything, it's pretty good. It's like a lot of the other Hyundai and Kia products that I've tested. Again, I do like that you can scroll through everything like a smartphone. But again, once everything's loaded up, the touch response is actually pretty good. Now, as far as the sound system in my vehicle here, it is not the upgraded Infinity audio system that you can get with the upper end packages for the Exclaim. Unfortunately, it is just the standard 6-speaker system, but still, it is pretty decent nonetheless. Now, like I was saying, the sound system in the standard Soul Exclaim, this 6-speaker system, it isn't bad, but as I've been saying with a lot of my other reviews, if you're a bit of a music head like me, you may want to go for the upgraded audio system instead. You do have your standard media and radio functions here. Again, the functions for your U-Voice system, so roadside assistance, vehicle diagnostics, and so on. You also have your other application systems such as Pandora, internet radio, and again, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Your standard setup, you have your Bluetooth phone, radio, and of course the Bluetooth media streaming as I was just showing you. And then of course you also have just standard things such as your power and volume knob, and also your tuning and enter button over here, mainly just your tuning knob over there on the right. Looking down below, you do have a standard single zone climate control system in here. The dual zone automated system is an option, I believe, but it does come with Kia's and also Hyundai's clean air ionizer and purifier, basically a clever filtration system to make sure you are breathing the cleanest air possible. The standard air conditioning system in the Exclaim, again, it is automatic, so you just push auto and then it sorts itself out the rest of the way. Fan controls are over here on the left, front and rear defrost, introducing the AC, and also air conditioning recycling, and also climate zones as well. You can push the climate button, and that of course allows you to see pretty much everything, you know, what climate zone you're in, temperature, and fan speed as well. Moving down below the air conditioning for just a second, you do also have a standard iPod auxiliary and USB, as well as two 12-volt 180-watt outlets. You do have a small cubby below that. As you can see, my Samsung Galaxy S5 fits just perfectly in there. But then moving here to the rest of the center console, one unfortunate thing, and this is probably my biggest complaint here with the Soul Turbo, is the transmission. It is only available with the 7-speed EcoShift dual clutch automatic transmission with the Sport Shift manual shift mode. The other thing that's kind of a complaint of mine is that it is missing paddle shifters. Some of you guys may know that I personally have a 2017 Hyundai Elantra Sport with the same engine and transmission combination, but it has paddle shifters up here on the steering wheel. So it would have been nice to see that, but also it would have really been nice to really exercise that turbo engine up front with a proper 6-speed manual. You do have a rear backup camera, as I said. The guidance lines, there are none, so when you turn the steering wheel, it doesn't move with the direction of the wheel. That's another bit of a disappointment here, but nonetheless, you do have the standard automatic safety locks, so any other gear than park, they will stay locked. Put it in park, and as you can see, they automatically open. And then of course you got the manual shift mode over to the left hand side of the drive portion. Now, should you have a drink of a relatively decent size, you do have rather nice sized cup holders down here in the middle, and then finishing everything off, you do have a leather, or what feels like a leatherette bound center console here, again with more of the orange color coordinated stitching. Open it up, you do have an active USB charging port in the middle, so you can just plug in your phone cord there and let it hang out in the open. You do have quite a lot of storage space in here. As you can see, I have a random bottle of sunscreen in there from a beach trip that me and my girlfriend took this car on over the weekend. But overall, plenty of storage space, and also a great place to rest your arm. Now, looking up towards the roofline here, we do have a standard auto-dimming rearview mirror here on my Exclaim Turbo trim level. You do have a small little holder for your sunglasses, which is also a nicety, but also just your standard halogen map lights, your room lights, and things like that. Again, a panoramic sunroof is an option on the Soul Turbo, but as you can see, my tester here does not have that. But I cannot praise the roof a lot, enough actually, because it is so roomy in here, and at 6'1", I still have boatloads of headroom in here. And same thing goes with the rear seats. I actually sat back there, and the slightly slanted roof line apparently does not actually get in the way that much, so it's not really bad either in the front or in the back. Now, over the years, Kia has always told us that they have the power to surprise. And I think taller folks will definitely get a nice surprise when they step into the back of the 2017 Soul. I'm by no means small. I'm 6'1", and I can still fit my hand between the front of my knee and the back of the seat here. Now, the back of the seat, unfortunately, it's plastic, so not gonna do your knees much good in the event of an accident. But also, what's not gonna do your left rear occupant much good is the fact they don't have a map pocket here. That is reserved for your right rear occupant here in the back seat, but neither here nor there. You also have an active USB charger here, so either one of your rear occupants can also charge their phone while they are back here. You do have a small center console here in the middle, and these seats are 60/40 split fold, one of the rather impressive features of the 2017 Soul, and I'll explain more here in just a minute. But to access them, you just pull either one of the triggers on the upper edges of the seats. Now, at first glance, the Soul may or may not appear to be one of the more commodious vehicles in its category, but you open the rear hatch here and you discover that not only do you have a decent sized entry as far as putting your stuff initially into the back of the Soul, but it is also rather spacious. You're looking, I believe, at about 18.5 cubic feet to start with this little cargo cover here in place. Take that out, that extends to about 25 cubic feet of space, so you're already opening up quite a bit without even folding down those rear seats. However, when you fold down those rear seats there, you are opening up to a cargo volume that will rival some of today's mid-size crossovers. So as you can see, there is still quite a lot of space that you can have to put all your stuff here in the back of the Soul. You open this up, you do have a small little storage compartment here underneath the little floor in the back, and you also have a compact spare tire hidden there underneath. So already a big plus as far as cargo here in the back of the Soul. Now, of course, with a name like Soul Turbo, you know that this vehicle is not all show and no go. And looking under the hood reveals a pretty familiar sight, at least to this set of eyes here. It's the same 1.6 liter turbocharged and direct injected 4-cylinder engine that you'll find in cars such as the Kia Forte 5 SX Turbo, the new Hyundai Elantra GT Sport and Sport Sedan, and also cars like the Hyundai Tucson. It makes the same 201 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque that you'll find in the Hyundai Veloster Turbo. Now, this is all thanks as well to double overhead cams, 16 valves, and the same dual continuous variable valve timing technology. Now, as far as fuel economy is concerned, some people actually may be surprised. Despite the fact that this thing weighs 3,232 pounds fully loaded out, it actually attains 26 miles per gallon in the city and 32 miles per gallon on the interstate highway. Now, throughout my week of testing, I've achieved about 28.5 miles per gallon through combined city and highway driving. So definitely spot on the mark as far as fuel economy is concerned, and when you put your foot down, this car will definitely show you it's got some guts. Now, of course, you can't talk about speed without talking about safety. And although my test vehicle here, as I said, is the more basic version of the Soul Turbo, it still does have quite a lot of standard safety features to go along with it, albeit you actually are missing a lot of today's active safety features at the same time. Things, as I mentioned earlier, like blind spot monitoring and also pre-collision alert with pedestrian detection are all absent here on my test vehicle. But you do have your usual array of airbags, including the front impact airbags, side curtain, and side impact airbags as well, and you also have a driver's knee airbag, I believe, located down below the steering column. But as far as passenger comfort, it's just the same as if I'm sitting in the driver's seat. The seats feel absolutely wonderful, great torso support, and actually very soft here with these cloth portions. I'm really actually surprised they're not a lot firmer like some of its competition that I've actually sat in before. As far as the glove box, it is damp, so it does fall rather softly, and we can go ahead and take a quick look at the Moroni sticker here. But overall, it is a pretty spacious glove box. It does go in a good ways, but it's not lined felt, but what do you expect in a car that only costs about $23,000? But in the end, I really have enjoyed my time here with the Soul Turbo. I've always thought this car was properly quirky, even without the little hamsters in the picture. Now, would I actually buy one of these for $23,000? Absolutely. It is a money saver and a half when it comes to gas, and you can still get your kicks when it comes to performance. And unfortunately, on that note, everybody, our time here with the 2017 Kia Soul Turbo has now unfortunately drawn to a close. I do hope everybody's enjoyed this review as much as I've had fun making it for y'all. Now, if you guys like what you see, please do give this video a thumbs up, and also be sure to click that subscribe button down below for many more videos like this and more to come in the future. But in the end, a massive thanks goes out to the folks at Kia Motors America for providing me with this awesome Soul Turbo for a fun-filled week of testing. But in the end, guys, this has been Grand Prix GTP02 from the north end of Houston, Texas, signing out until next time. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.